Welcome once again. I think the rest of the people will join us later. I hope you can hear me. Sports, please. Timo,
Yes, I can.
can you please
Yes, I can.
unmute?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Once again, welcome, Tony Kent. It's a pleasure having you. Sports 24/7, Samali, Ochira Godson.
Today is early.
Today is Ali. Yeah, it's a pleasure having you all. My name is Lawrence Coco, and I'm hosting this space today. Typically, we're going to talk local sport. That is the Paris 2024 Olympics. AC Villa locker room, a lot has been happening since the season ended, and also the local transfers. Yeah, we're going to talk sports, Uganda and Africa, if time allows. We're going to be here so brief. So I wanted to give this opportunity to Tony Kent. Tony Kent has been following Olympics since. I don't know if I'm barging in, but you've been following Olympics since. And our own, that is Kathleen Noble, was in action, and things didn't go quite well in all her three trials so far, and which leaves her with no option but to fight for positions. And also, Uganda taking, I think, 4 categories to the Olympics. We are having cycling, rowing, which Noble participated in. We're having athletics, which is all our big athletics are going to be participating in that category, and also cycling, where we only have one person. So just an overview. Tony Kent, I want to allow you to say a word. Yes, Tony Kent, you're welcome. Just give us an overview of so far the Ugandan contingent in the Olympics 2024. You're welcome, Tony Kent.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Perhaps maybe there is a microphone that's active somewhere. That's why we are getting the echoes in the space. Allow me welcome colleagues that have come on board, Godson, Imran, Sports Blaze, and all the rest that will be coming soon as we get along. It's good you've started off with Kathleen Noble, the lady that is of American descent but Ugandan citizen. Many people have had an uproar asking whether this is a Ugandan. We are simply clinging to someone, but she made a choice to race for Uganda. And because of her dual citizenship, yes, she's actually typically Ugandan. Just like we see the N'Golo Kantes of this world, the Lukakus of this world playing for the likes of France, Belgium, and other countries like the Englands, where we see the Sakas of this world, but not necessarily originally members of such countries or nationals of such countries, from what we know as an original membership. Now, there's been as well another confusion, which I believe men and women of the press will have to iron out. I, for one, as well, got a little confused in the very first days of the Olympics when Kathleen Noble took part in Heat 1 of the scull rowing. She finished last, that is, she finished sixth, and yet they were taking only 3, and that meant that her journey had gotten done for the big thing. However, she was eventually placed into the repechage, which is a category or a categorization of sport where even after you've lost out for the big thing, you are placed into categorizations, just like we saw what was happening in Nambole. Uganda was fighting for 5th. Mozambique was fighting for 7th, if I'm not mistaken. It was relegated while Ivory Coast finished 7th. Zimbabwe took the trophy, whilst Namibia and Kenya were fighting for position number 3. So there is a stage, leave alone the medal positions, but from from fifth to the last one before relegation comes in at eighth, that is all repechage. You're given an opportunity to fight for a classification. So Kathleen Noble was then qualified for a repechage, which took her to what you would call a quarterfinal stage. But did she qualify? She didn't, because it was only at the top two that were taken. She finished number 3. So this meant that even after this categorization, she now qualified for a semi-final clash. And that semi-final is categorized as semi-final E, section F, or semi-final EF. Now, this one, for many, they've been talking about she's qualified for the final. No. It's basically a final in that category of the lower ones, but not for a medal. Simply, it's for classification, so that by the end of the Olympics, it will be possible to say Kathleen Noble perhaps finished as maybe the 30th amongst the rowers world over. Excuse me. Saliva just choked me. I'm sorry. But then that is the whole bit. Now, in as far as Camp Uganda, I was told earlier on by John Van Sentamu, who is actually together with the National Council of Sports in Paris. I'm sorry, guys, saliva choked me yet again. I was told that majority of our athletes are going to be jetting in today, the likes of the Nakais, the Joshua Cheptegais, the Jacob Kiplimos, and quite a number of others. They boarded the early morning flight, and probably by now, or maybe a few hours from now, they will be in France. Now, the reason is they've not been there early because they were doing training. And at the same time, it's sometimes better to stay where you are for your training, so that by the time you come through for the contest, you are good to go. Of course, on another kind of basis, you would think maybe it was necessary for them to come early and then adopt or maybe acclimatize to the French climate, the French environment. Well, in this case, it is the other way around. Actually, if any one of us was so core and keen when the teams were being unveiled for the start, that is the opening ceremony, majority did not appear, and in most cases, majority don't appear. Why? Because the athletes don't come immediately. They don't come immediately. They take some time before they eventually join camp. And so the persons you see normally at the opening ceremony are the officials, that is the team officials, and a few of the others that managed to make it through. For example, the flag bearers. Uganda had Gloria Mzito, who hoisted our flag during the opening ceremony. We saw the likes of the USA, Coco Gauff. She was hoisting that flag, and a few others, but majority not appearing at the opening ceremony. And for that fact, such events of the kind. So Team Uganda will see others coming through today, and I'm told that yes, we are likely to have a blossoming camp, because when those others come, remember they are the big ones, with athletics kicking off around 1st and 2nd of August. It looks like there will be great momentum building up. I want to express my dissatisfaction at Team Uganda for the fact that we've not availed an environment for our own to contest with required entry points for Olympics, because you do realize that for the Olympics to reach where they are, or the Olympians to reach where they are, they've been involving in activities from as early as the IAAF, the Diamond League, the World Athletics Championships, the World Athletics Tours, and quite a number of others, in addition to the national championships and qualifiers. So you realize we are having less, or we are having few, simply because first and foremost we fail to qualify, but apparently as well, what they call the team size calculator falls its way, killing us, because we cannot take what we cannot actually have in as far as the Olympic Committee, which avails that kind of calculation, the number of athletes one should have. Look at South Sudan. South Sudan so far took the biggest number of of Olympians as basketballers, and all of us know they've been performing well when it comes to basketball. So therein, their numbers were quite so many, but elsewhere, you actually have to look for them with a magnifying glass because they are simply not as visible as the other countries have players visible in, or rather, Olympians or athletes visible in other sports. So I am feeling the pain of having just one, two swimmers, one cyclist, one rower in Kathleen Noble. And perhaps this time round, we should have had more boxers. We should have had more lifters like we did in 2020. We should have had people doing archery. We should have had sporting disciplines like hockey, because we have all those associations in Uganda, the Hockey League, we have the Cricket League. Okay, cricket is not there, but we should have had a particular sport being there, because you look at countries like India, which has the biggest population in the world, it has at least one sportsman per game that is represented at the Olympics. And that meaning that there is a possibility they can get as many medals as possible. Well, sometimes it's not about the medals, it's majorly about the magnitude of the medals or the medal. That's the reason for which, even as the medal table looks like for now, the one on top might only be having 3 medals, but because all of them might be gold, as compared to others who might have 6, but with just 1 gold medal, and the others being the second placed and third placed medals in terms of hierarchy, they eventually stay atop. And so that for me is a pain. We are missing out on such opportunities. If at all we could broaden our sports base, maybe with the new inclusion of the national lottery, which government says will have its returns and proceeds going to sports infrastructure development, maybe we could have more of the sportsmen and women actually availing themselves for future Olympians or future contestants at Olympic Games or stages as big as the one that we just talked about. But otherwise, I'm hoping that we pick a leaf. There was the talk of Zimbabwe having taken about 67 officials. That is impossible. That has actually been the craze on social media. And if you don't dig deep, you'll actually pick on that and take it on as crystal clear truth. But the reality is, by law, the Olympic Committee, that is the IOC, International Olympic Committee, allows for a particular number of officials to be a part of the team, depending on the number of the team they are in. Like, for example, Team Uganda has approximately 8 to 9 officials, including the physio, including the press team, including the managers, including the doctors, including quite a number of others, but it's around 8 to 9, and that is for 25. Now, the difference is, for example, in Uganda, as I explained the issue of Zimbabwe, we are having particular sportsmen and women having their particular coaches, leave alone the coach of the team, the general coach of the team. We have people like the Chepse guys, we have people like the Kiplimos, we have the Winnie Nanyondos, the Halima Nakais, who have their particular coaches. They have their particular doctors. So you realize that one person might actually bring on board 2 extra persons, but they are all within Camp Uganda. Now, look at it as Camp Zimbabwe. Now, in that scenario, you'll end up thinking and saying, these people have taken 100 people for just 25 athletes. Now, that is where the situation falls in. But the team size calculator has specifics, and perhaps for people like Sports Blaze that have, an insight into researching about these issues of football, rather issues of sport, that will probably be an eyeliner for them when they come through to speak. But all in all, having been availed that bit of the discussion to start it off with, I think maybe I will come in later to share other views as they fall in. But maybe for Villa, where I feel a bit of dissatisfaction. I know we are yet to
I
reach.
know we are yet to reach.
We are yet to reach.
Maybe
We are
Tony,
yet to reach.
Tony, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine.
All right. Thank you very much. That is quite an you have exposed everything to us. That is very, very, very important as we are starting off. I highlighted a few key points. We're talking about the numbers. The Paris Olympics has like 32 categories, and we're only having 4 categories with 25 participants. And as of the last standings, you can see that I don't think there is any African country apart from South Africa that has gotten yet a medal, because you can see South Korea has is now on top with 4 gold and 3 silver and bronze, 1 bronze. Japan, China, France. So the circle keeps on changing, the table keeps on changing on top without any African. And where we can count Uganda, that is athletics, of course, with the boys and the ladies who join the camp, the Kiprotich and the rest. So I just wanted to get to Sports Blaze. You just give us your insight on this. What do we need to do to have numbers, particularly? What do we need to have numbers in these competitions? I understand it's not a competition where you fight for a qualification. You have to pick up points from different kinds of competitions. What do we need to do as a nation? Because this is a sport where we have the talent. You can see the rugby sevens, the rugby 15. We have in the cricket team, like Tony said, we're having different sports, boxing. Eh? Eh, What do we need to do as a nation in terms of having the numbers in Olympics?
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Lauren.
much.
But I would say that we as a nation, first of all, the first thing that we have to do is that we have to recognize sport as a business, something that can yield us revenue, lots of revenue as a nation, not just a leisure. If we get to change that mindset from the leadership, right from the government, from the top, that means that there is going to be investment coming into sport, because if you realize something is going to yield you fruits at the end of the day. So that means you're going to be paying more attention, you're going to be putting in more money, knowing that there are going to be rewards at the end of the day. So that's one thing that we need to do with sports in the country. If we treat it that way, and then at the end of the day, they will improve our chances of having more athletes or getting to qualify for more Olympic games out of the 32 that are there. Can we push it to probably 10, to a pool of 10 games, having 10 games being represented at the Olympics? And then there's something that we haven't done in a while, in that we know that we have got good boxers, we know we have got good long distance runners, we have got promise in rugby. You can see you play in the rugby series, you have been to the rugby World Cup, that is the sevens. But we
Talk
have,
talk
but
about basketball. Talk about basketball,
yeah,
handball, hockey.
yeah, yes. I mean, those that have put us on the map. But have we bothered to see that we give it more emphasis, on these games? Have we tried to prioritize and say, since we are good in netball, let's put in more energy. Our flag is flying high at a global stage in netball. But I mean, look at their budget. It's so funny that how much they get to operate on a team that flies the national flag at a global stage. So there's a lot that we need to do, because if you do that, I mean, look at boxing as well. Boxing is there. There is big potential in boxing. But how many boxers did we send to the Olympics? How many do we have to? How many are we counting? Definitely you struggle to mention. And then even that, those that we have, we could probably have more in athletics. But you realize most of the people that we have there are people that have empowered themselves to that level. The Kiprotich, the Kiplimos have basically pushed that themselves to global status. So we need to do a lot. One, invest massively, and then apart from investing, we have got to do something that where we have our strength high, we need to put more emphasis to make sure that we get to nail it at the global stage. Because now we will need to see if cricket is going to be coming in 2028, and we have the potential in cricket. How do we work towards making sure that when 2028 comes, probably we have cricket cranes representing us. By the time we hit 2028, how do we have a netball or on board? How do we end up having a rugby sevens playing on board? Because I was watching France taking on Fiji, and I'm like, okay, maybe sometimes also the things that they put us on a disadvantage is that the slots that are allocated to Africa also get to put us on a disadvantage, because if you're given 3 slots in a particular sport, at the end of the day, you're going to look at teams like South Africa taking the number 1 and 2 others. So you Uganda, you end up missing out. So I think also the slots that are allocated for an Olympic sport has been another factor that has hindered on probably the number of representation that we could be having on at the Olympic stage.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Maybe Tony Kent, I wanted just you to pick up from there on the numbers. Let's talk about the numbers. How can we get there? Because Uganda has been a force of reckoning to. Let me talk about Africa in rugby. Why can't we have a team there? In other sports, talking about volleyball, talking about netball, our team has been one of the best in Africa. Why are we not having a team there? Even football, let's talk about it. Tony Kent, just briefly.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. There is an interesting thing that we need to understand. If any one of us followed the Rugby World Cup, the T20 Rugby World Cup, you realize 2 countries hosted it. West Indies, which is a full member of the World Cup, that is the ICC, and then the USA, which is an affiliate rather associate member. Now, the two did not actually have the same rights, because West Indies, being a full member, took the bigger games. And this as well eventually falls into the picture. What Timothy was sharing is not any far from this. You realize it is our National Olympic Committee to sit down with the IOC and get for us such slots, lobby for us such slots. But then, even when such slots are lobbied, the question would be, do we get the qualifications? Just like a World Cup, just like an Africa Cup of Nations, just like any tournament, we are supposed to qualify. And that is why I was insisting that if we don't have the infrastructure, if we don't have the force in place to help these athletes qualify for the athletics, no matter how much or how many of those sports we have on the ground, we shall not still appear at the Olympics. Why? Because it takes qualification. For example, if you watched any of the marathons, Berlin Marathon, Prague Marathon, Valencia Marathon, London Marathon, all of them, for the men to qualify from that side to the Olympics, you had to finish within a speed of 2 hours and less than 10 minutes, basically 2:10. That was the time. For the ladies, it had to be 2:30. And anything beyond that, you would not be qualifying to actually take part in the Olympics. So it goes back to our abilities as athletes, okay, the athletes we have, but apparently as well, the kind of registration we have, the archery we have in Uganda, is it recognized on the international sporting calendar? The archery we have. For example, we have types of swimming, but do we have swimmers who do what is recognized on the international calendar? Do we have fencing? That is the game of fencing in Uganda. So some of this it's all about having the games first before we can register. But 2 is also looking at whether or not the ones that we are affiliating to the big picture. For example, table tennis would be having table tennis players at the Olympics, but Are we affiliated? Those are big questions to look into, Lawrence.
All right. Thank you very much. I wanted to invite in Godson. I don't know if is on and off. Timo, I don't know what Godson has done again. He's good at getting on and off.
network in
You
Chikoni.
know network in Chikoni. Oh, sorry. I wanted to bring in Imran Pata. Welcome and thanks for joining the team. I want to talk now Uganda.